Let's dive into something kind of unexpected today. Something that's quietly changing everything around us, but that we don't often think about. Facility management.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those fields that's essential but often overlooked.
Right. You probably don't spend your days thinking about facility management, do you? But it really is the invisible force that keeps things running behind the scenes. Offices, gyms, hospitals, basically anywhere with a building, really.
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating right now is how much this field is changing, like really undergoing a major digital transformation.
A digital transformation. Okay, so what does that even mean when we're talking about buildings? Like, is our office thermostat suddenly going rogue or something?
Well, maybe not rogue exactly, but definitely getting smarter. The thing is, facility management is becoming incredibly data-driven. In
Yeah.
fact, there was this study by Deloitte that found something like 63% of facility managers saying these digital tools are actually boosting their efficiency.
More efficiency. Okay, well, that sounds good so far. What's the catch? There's got to be a catch, right?
All right, there's always a catch. And the catch here, well, it all comes down to cybersecurity. Because you see, as buildings become more and more reliant on tech, especially things like building management systems.
Building management systems? Sorry to interrupt, but what exactly?
Yeah, no worries. Building management systems, or BMS, that's basically the system that controls everything in larger buildings. Temperature, lighting, security, all that. And the thing is, as those systems get more complex and interconnected, it opens up this whole new world of potential risks, cybersecurity risks.
Okay, hold on. You're saying our office building could actually get hacked?
It's not really about if anymore. It's more like when. I mean, think about it. If a hacker can get into the building management system, they could potentially control building access, security systems. Heck, they could even mess with the climate control, make it freezing or sweltering hot.
You're kidding. That sounds like something out of a movie.
I know, right? It does sound kind of far-fetched, but it's a real concern. There was actually this casino a while back that got hacked, and guess what? They got in through their internet-connected fish tank thermometer.
You're joking. They got hacked through a fish tank thermometer.
I know. It sounds crazy, but it really happened. It's often not some super sophisticated hack either. It can be as simple as, outdated software or a weak password.
Wow, that's both hilarious and kind of terrifying at the same time. But seriously, how common is this kind of thing?
Well, it's more common than you might think. CISA, they're the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, they report that something like 80% of cyber attacks actually exploit misconfigured systems.
So it's not always about some master hacker genius out there. Sometimes it's just what? Basic security oversights.
Exactly. A lot of this stuff really boils down to just being proactive, being aware of the risks.
Yeah.
There was this case study about a school district, I think it was, and they managed to reduce their security incidents by something like 30%. And all they did was implement some early risk assessment procedures. They just identified their vulnerabilities before anything could happen.
So it's like preventative care, but for buildings.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And, we always think about the financial costs of a cyber attack, but the potential safety hazards are huge too.
No, that's a good point. We're talking about fire alarms, power outages, things that could have serious real-world consequences if they were to be tampered with.
Right, absolutely. Imagine a hacker triggering a building-wide power outage during a heat wave. Or even worse, think about them disabling emergency exits during an evacuation. That's when it gets really scary.
Okay, wow, you definitely just took a dark turn there. So, knowing all of that, how do we even begin to prevent these nightmare scenarios from becoming reality? What can these facility managers actually do to protect the buildings that, let's face it, we rely on pretty much every single day?
Well, yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And I think it really speaks to how much the role of a facility manager is changing, evolving. They're on the front lines of this whole thing, this digital battleground, and they need a whole new set of skills to navigate it successfully, for sure.
Right, like what kind of tools does a, I guess, cyber-savvy facility manager need in their arsenal?
Well, I think it all starts with becoming really good at risk assessment. They need to know how to identify vulnerabilities before a hacker does, right?
So they're like, what, digital detectives going around looking for those weak points in the system?
Yeah, exactly. They need to be able to spot things like software that's outdated, weak passwords. Those are huge. And even just suspicious devices that might be connected to the network. Kind of like regular checkups, but for the building's digital security.
So regular security audits, it's like flossing for your building's digital hygiene, basically. I like that analogy. But what happens if, despite all our best efforts, a breach does happen? That's where the whole incident response plan comes in, right?
And 100%, yeah. Having a solid incident response plan is absolutely crucial. It's like having a fire drill, but for a cyber attack,
Right.
right? Outlines who to contact, what steps to take, how to communicate with everybody involved, all of that.
So it's all about damage control, but also making sure everyone's on the same page and knows exactly what they need to do to minimize the impact, right?
Exactly, exactly. And it's not just about reacting quickly in the moment. A really good, well thought out incident response plan can actually drastically cut down on the recovery time after something happens. We're talking like potentially cutting that recovery time in half.
Wow, that's huge. Okay, so we've talked about risk assessment and incident response. Anything else those facility managers out there should have on their radar?
Yeah, well, we can't forget about data protection, right? We're talking about a lot of sensitive information flowing through those building management systems, people's movements, schedules, even personal information in some cases. Got to make sure all that's being handled responsibly and securely.
Right, and it's not even just about keeping hackers out. I imagine facility managers also need to be thinking about things like privacy laws, like GDPR, all of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mhm.
GDPR, that's the General Data Protection Regulation, and that applies to anyone who's handling personal data, even if they're not, a tech company or whatever.
Yeah.
It's about protecting people's privacy, plain and simple.
Right, right. Makes sense. So we've got risk assessment, incident response, data protection. Sounds like a lot to keep track of. I have to ask, is there anything else these facility managers need to be thinking about, or is that basically it?
Well, here's the thing, and I think this is really important. They don't have to do it all alone. And in fact, they probably shouldn't even try. You see, one of the most effective ways to really boost cybersecurity in any field is through collaboration.
Collaboration. You mean like facility managers need to brush up on their teamwork skills or something?
Well, yeah, you could put it that way, but it's more about breaking down those silos, those barriers between different departments.
Hmm.
Cybersecurity, it really isn't just the IT department's problem anymore. Everyone's got a role to play.
So you're saying it's about building a culture of security awareness, and that's got to happen across the entire organization, right?
Exactly. I mean, think about it, right? The maintenance team, the cleaning crew, even the receptionist, they're all on the front lines in a way. They might be the first ones to spot a suspicious device or notice if something's not quite right.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they're like the eyes and ears of the building. But I mean, does that really make a difference, you think?
Oh, absolutely. It makes a huge difference. There was this study, I can't remember who did it, but they found that really solid, effective communication between departments, cross-departmental communication, could actually neutralize something like 63% of potential cyber threats.
63%. Wow, that's huge. It's like having a whole extra security team that you didn't even realize you had.
Right. It really highlights how important it is for everyone to be on the same page when it comes to this stuff.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of risk assessment, incident response planning, data protection, and now collaboration. That's a lot to think about.
It is, but it's all connected. As buildings get smarter, more interconnected, we all got to get smarter about how we protect them, right?
Makes sense. It makes you wonder, though, as these buildings we spend so much time in become like giant interconnected computers, who is ultimately responsible for their security?
That's the big question, isn't it? And I don't think there's an easy answer.
Mhm.
I mean, those lines are getting blurrier and blurrier all the time between the physical world and the digital world. So our thinking about security, it's got to adapt.
That's a powerful thought to leave us with. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today. Everything from rogue fish tank thermometers to the importance of having a solid incident response plan in place, and even the power of good old-fashioned teamwork. It's been really eye-opening, honestly.
My pleasure. Like I said, this is a field that just doesn't get enough attention.
Well said. So to all our listeners out there, next time you're at work, at the gym, even just walking down the street, take a second to think about that often invisible world of facility management that's keeping things running behind the scenes. And if you happen to see your building manager around, maybe give them a high five for all their hard work, because let's face it, they are kind of the unsung heroes of our digital age, wouldn't you say?
Here, here. Couldn't agree more.
And on that note, this has been another episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening, everyone.